Hey, this is Troy Taylor with the Championship Football Coaches Clinic podcast. I'm here today with Coach Chuck Smith. We're sponsored by Rack Coach and Sports Workbook. You know, about a week ago, I had on the Commonwealth Football Coaches Clinic coach, and he mentioned Coach Smith because I asked him, how did Bowles High School, turn around? And he told me that it was Chuck Smith. So I was like, okay, I got to get Chuck Smith on the podcast. So, Coach Smith, for everybody out there watching now or will be watching, tell us a little bit about yourself and where are you from, Coach?
Well, I'm actually from Louisville, Kentucky. That's where I was born and raised. I went to when I left. I played at Jeffersontown High School there, and then when I left high school, I went to the University of Kentucky. I played at the University of Kentucky from 1977 was my freshman year, and 1980 was my senior year, and played linebacker there at the University of Kentucky. And then when I graduated from Kentucky, then I got it. I obviously had a teaching certification, and I got into coaching. Loved the game of football, and first job was at Mercer County High School as an assistant coach. I stayed there for about 4 years, and then I took a head coaching job at Allen County, Scottsville. Stayed there a year. Moved to Campbellsville High School. Stayed there a year. No, I'm sorry. I stayed at Campbellsville for 4 years. Then I left Campbellsville and I went to Boyle County, and that's where I had most of my success was, at Boyle County. I can come back to that, but when I left, I did leave Boyle County after 13 seasons and went to the University of Kentucky as the linebacker coach. I stayed there for 8 seasons as the linebacker coach at the University of Kentucky. Once I left the University of Kentucky, I went spent a year at Bardstown High School as an assistant coach. And then from there, I went back to Boyle County for another 6 years. And then I retired after that. I retired from coaching and teaching. But, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, Coach. So I want to go back to your high school days. I mean, you're from Louisville, and I went to the convention there one year, and I didn't even know Louisville was a big city. Coach, I don't know geography. My dad's from Appalachia, Virginia, and Wise County. My mom's from Hopewell. I don't know if you know where Hopewell is, but I thought Rhode Island was next to Delaware. And Louisville, I thought when I got there, I was like, good gosh. I mean, Louisville is like 4 times the size of Richmond. It's huge. But what high school coaches did you have that made an impact on you, Coach, that helped change your life or, set you on the path to become a coach?
Oh, that's a great question because, I do really believe that your high school coach, he's really the one that gives you the first impression, of competition football. You know what I mean? When you get into like the smaller levels, then it's kind of, for fun.
It's not in the paper. It's not in the paper. It's, it's
Right.
not on the internet.
Right. And then when you get to high school, then it's really competition. I mean, you're playing the game to win. You're not participating anymore. You're playing to win. And Jim Hughes was my first coach, and he's passed away, but he really had a big impact on my life. He was a tough, hard-nosed guy, but he loved his players. He coached you hard, but he loved you hard as well. And then Jim Jordan took over for Jim Hughes after he retired. And so I had him for my last couple of years. And he was the same way. He was just he had a different personality than Jim Hughes, but he was the same kind of guy that just loved his players and it would do anything for them. And just those were the things that I remember the most, not necessarily the plays and the wins, but the relationship that you had with your coach and how much he was truly, sincerely cared about you as an individual. And especially after you graduated, I mean, you could always go back to them and talk to them, or if you ever needed anything, you always felt like they would drop whatever they're doing, to get it for you,
I've talked, like I told you, Coach, I did 119 of these in 2 months. And that's one thing that I hear from all coaches is that the great ones can relate to their players. and that they love their players. And I had a young coach ask me when I first started doing this, he was like, Troy, the last two places I've been the head coach, like I related to the kids and they related to me. But at this place that I'm at now, the kids have told me, like, you don't understand me, you don't look like me, or, you're trying to change me. Is that something you found? And who are some of the best at relating to their players? Because no matter what level you go to, it seems like the great ones all have that in common.
They do, and there's the old saying that everybody that's in football has heard. It's so true. Is they really don't care what you know until they know that you care, and that's just so true. And I think before you can coach a kid hard, you've got to show him that you care about him as a person and as an individual. It's really about building relationships. You got to build that relationship before you can teach them anything. And it's pretty much the same way in the classroom too, as a classroom teacher. And but that's the thing that I've learned from all of the coaches that I played under as a player, and I've tried to I've tried to use that in my arsenal as a coach as I've gone through my career, at the high school and also at the college level.
So when you went to go play at Kentucky, were there any coaches there that had an impact on you, Coach?
Oh yeah, yeah. Our defensive coordinator, who also was the linebacker coach, was Charlie Bailey, and Coach Bailey he was one of those hard nosed guys too that coached you hard, but he'd coach you hard, he'd chew you out. But after practice, it wasn't uncommon for him to come put his arm around you, and he would talk to you about why, he pushed you that hard, that difficult and that hard that day. And he would always tell you why, hey, you've got more potential. You can do better. You just got to push yourself harder. You got to learn this. You got to learn that. He always gave you the reason why he was coaching you hard. And I always thought that was, and I always tried to do that too, because, when I was in high school, I have a reputation of coaching them hard, but I always explained to them, after practice, hey, this is what I see, this is what I think you're capable of. I don't think you're reaching your potential. I'm going to be on you again tomorrow if I don't see some improvements in these areas right here. So, that's the kind of mentality that and the style of coaching that I had, but I learned it from the guys that I played for: Jim Hughes, Jim Jordan, Charlie Bailey. They were the same kind of guys.
Yeah. So when you're a young coach, you kind of imitate the guys that you learned from, and then eventually you develop your own style, I guess.
Yep.
Can you talk about that, being the young coach and then leaving University of Kentucky and getting your first assistant job, and who did you work for there, and what did you learn, Coach?
Yeah. Larry French was the head coach at Mercer County High School when I first went to, that was my first coaching and teaching job, was at Mercer County High School in Kentucky. It was in central Kentucky. And, I learned so much from Larry in that respect, because, I was young, I was aggressive, I was maybe a little over the top, and there was lots of times there would be confrontations, on the practice field. I would push, and I wouldn't let up. And so Larry would always, talk to me after practice as my mentor, and he would say, "Look, if you're going to work them that hard, if you're going to push them that hard," he said, "you're going to have to have a relationship with them off the field." He said, "You can't just be that way on the field and not have a relationship with them off the field." He said, "You're going to have to go talk to them." He said, "You have to pull them aside. You got to tell them why you're doing what you're doing." And I just thought that was great advice, and it really carried me through my career as a coach.
Yeah. So, like, I think I might have heard this. I mean, I've always known it, but I think I heard it from the last lecture, Randy Posh. I don't know if you were familiar with this, but the guy who had terminal cancer, and he was like a teacher at Carnegie Mellon. And he talked about that he had a coach that really got on him when he played rec football. And another coach told him, said, If coach stops getting on you, that means that he's giving up on you. So that's like one thing we always tell our players is like, the reason we coach you so hard is because, we want you to get better. And when people stop correcting you when you're doing bad or doing wrong, then you're in trouble. Do you have that same philosophy? Is that how you express it? How do you express it to the players? I mean, they see your passion, they hear it, but isn't that you're mad at them as a person? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. When you coach a guy, you don't attack the person, you attack the performance. I think that's really important because sometimes as a coach, you get so involved and you're so passionate about it that and you're not seeing the results that you want. So sometimes you come at the player, and that's the wrong thing to do. You don't ever attack the person, you attack the performance. So when you coach him, you gotta criticize the performance, not him as an individual. And I think that's the key to the whole thing. And that's just the way I've always done it. But you also have to have a relationship with them, and you have to be able to, I think, talk to them. If you get on a guy really hard during practice, you need to talk to him before he goes home. If you never, ever, ever, ever let him go home thinking that you're mad at him. If you do, that's bad coaching. And if you have to run him down after practice before he gets out of the locker room, you pull him aside and you say, look, this is what I see. This is what I think you're capable of. I don't think you're giving me your best. And I'm going to be on you until I feel like you're giving me your best. That kind of mentality.
So you were an assistant coach for 4 years. I mean, that means you were 25. And I mean, that's really young. And I mean, were you ready? And there's so many guys nowadays. Like when I worked at Virginia University, one of my GAs, I was like, hey, man, I can get you an assistant job at Hermitage High School, one of the best programs in Richmond, or I can get you an assistant job here or there. He goes, oh, no, I'm not taking an assistant job. I'm only going to go to high school if I could be the head coach or coordinator. I'm like, dude, nobody, you were a GA. Like, you didn't play college ball. You've never coached football. Ain't anybody just going to hand you their offense or give you a program. Like, they're going to think you're a kid. I mean, they're going to be scared that, the real young coach, if he's handsome, I mean, they think you look like a student. So talk about that, Coach.
Yeah, it is kind of the mentality of the younger coaches coming out, but it's just their generation. I mean, it's just the way it is. They want those. They seem to forget about paying the due part. You got to pay your dues, but there's nothing I'm going to say that's ever going to change that. So that's just what you're dealing with. And there's not a lot of good assistant coaches at the high school level getting in it anymore. And the simple reason is, they're not being paid enough and the hours are too long, for them, for that little bit of pay. Very seldom are you finding the true, guys who really love the game of football and would, like when I was doing it, I would have done it for free because I loved it. And, you don't have to do it for free. You can get paid, but I would have done it for free because I love the game. I loved everything about it. Still do. But, those guys, it's just hard to get a good assistant coaches anymore.
You're right. I mean, down here is Coach Totem. He's 26-year-old offensive line coach in North Carolina. He just put on the best offensive line clinic in the country so far this year. He had 25 speakers yesterday. I think he went from 8 a.m. To around 8 p.m. He did this on the day when his wife was out of town, so he didn't go to Divorce City like me. But Coach Totem, you need to get Coach on your podcast. So, Coach, if you have any questions, Coach Totem, Coach would love to talk to you. And he's sharp, Coach. Coach Totem is very, very sharp. He's got a YouTube channel. So what did you learn when you took your first head coaching job?
Well, I learned a lot because I was my first head coaching job was after 4 years of being in as an assistant. I went to Allen County, Scottsville, and that was a school that had not had a whole lot of success. And I come in young. I was young. I was still in my 20s, And I had that fire in me, and I just I wouldn't let up. And I still, when I look back on it now, there was a lot of mistakes I made as my first year head coach. Maybe too hard on them. We started off with about 50 kids, end up playing the season with about 25. And I was just it was either my way or the highway, and I was probably over the top and probably a little bit too tough. But I didn't feel that way at the time. But I did feel like I got the culture headed in the right direction there. And I handled the media all wrong. I was just just a young coach that was I didn't see it. I had blinders on. All I saw was the team. All I saw was what we needed to do in my eyes, in my vision, to win football games. And I shut everything outside. The parents, I wouldn't deal with them. I wouldn't deal with the media.
So that's how you handled the media wrong. You didn't even talk to them?
No, I did, but I talked to them when I wanted to. I wouldn't let them come to the huddle after the game. I just made a lot of mistakes. That's
the only way you can learn. Some people forget that.
Yeah.
So you were there for 1 year, and then you left. So talk about some of the jobs you had before you got to Boyle County.
Well, of course, I was assistant at Mercer for 4 years. I went to Allen County for 1 year, and then I left Allen County and I went to Campbellsville High School, which is in the Central Kentucky area, and I stayed there for 4 years. And we struggled there. I mean, I took over a program. First day of practice, there was only 4 kids that showed up for practice, and so we didn't.
And this is a guy who's won 6 state championships. I mean, everybody thinks that it's easy, or you had 4 guys that showed up to practice. Yeah. And this is the same coach that would go on to win 6 state championships, a coach at UK.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
And it was a tough first day, and there was 5 coaches and 4 kids. And you know what? By golly, we had practice that day. We did drills. And they had a lot of attention because there was 5 coaches and 4 kids, but we were not going to cancel practice. And so after practice, of course, obviously you can't play with 4 guys. We got a plan together. We went around and visited homes, knocked on doors, sat down with potential players. The turnover from me to the previous staff, it was not pretty. The other guy was fired, and he didn't like being fired, and it was just left ugly. And so I didn't realize at the time I was taking over a mess. But we got it fixed. By the first game, we had 19 kids on the team, and we ended up winning like 7 or 6 or maybe 6 or 7 games that year. And we just took what we had. When school started, we went to classroom to classroom recruiting kids, and finally got enough to play. And and then by the time I left 4 years later, there was like 45 kids, playing football. And our last year there, we were, made the second round of the playoffs, and was 7-5, something like that.
So, I mean, some years people think, oh, this guy, he did such a great job coaching when he won the state championship. But I mean, that had to have been one of your best jobs coaching, to go from having 4 players to win 7 games.
Well, Troy, it's interesting you said that, because I've said many times that second year that I was there, of those 19 players, my first, a lot of them graduated. So the second year we had like 22 kids on the team the second year, but 14 of them were freshmen. And we won 2 ball games. And I tell everybody all the time, I said, that was one of the most overachieving teams I've ever coached. One of the best coaching jobs we've ever done. And we only won 2 games, but we had 14 freshmen, and the rest of them were upperclassmen, and equaling 22. So that's really true.
So you go to Boyle County, And how long did it take you, to get them to win a state championship? I think y'all won your first one in 1999.
Yes. And I went there in 92. So when I went there, they were in hard times. They'd only won I think 3 games the previous 3 years. And I think one season they didn't win any games. And so the program was not it was in hard times. It was in bad condition. There was no confidence. There was no culture. It was just the kids didn't believe in themselves. They were beat down. The saying in the school was play football, you're a fool. Play in the band, you're cool. So it was not in good shape. And so it took some time, and I always credit the first class, 1992. And again, I had this fire about me that I was maybe over the top, a little too tough. We had started off with 50, and we ended up with 25 again, and it was really hard. I wanted to draw a line. I wanted to see who really wanted to play football. I wanted to give them something. I always told them that, we're going to outwork people. And the toughness that I put them through, our coaching staff put them through, if they were going to make it through that, they were going to realize they were tough. And they did. And with those 25 guys, we ended up winning 7 ball games that first year. But still, the culture wasn't in place yet. It was going in the right direction. And then the second year, it kind of took a turn back to the worst. We only won 2 games. And the guys that took over in leadership didn't realize, what we were trying to get done. And then the third season and on, it just started taking off. We were winning, 8, 9, 10 ball games a year, all the way up until 1999. And then we didn't have we all winning seasons. Like I said, 8, 9, 10 wins. But we didn't win a state championship until 1999. We kind of knocked on the door a couple of times before that, but in 1999 we didn't lose a game. Actually, we didn't lose a game for 47 straight games. We won 47 straight games without a loss, and then we lost 2 games, but still won the state championship. So over a 6-year period, we won 86 out of 90 games.
You won 5 in a row.
5 in a row. We lost the 6th one. We made it to the 6 in a row, but we lost the 6th one.
I mean, I don't want to make you think about the past or bad times, but I mean, how many years had you been coaching before you won your first state championship? I mean, as a head coach.
That's a good question, because I like that question. I coached. I'd have to add it up, but I was, 1 year at Allen, 4 years, 5, then another, from 92 to 99 at Boyle. So I paid my dues. I knew that, so
what year did you start as a head coach?
My first head coaching job was 80, I think it was 88.
88. So it would have been 11 years.
Yeah.
So you were a head coach 11 years, and there was probably some time during that everybody was like, oh, I mean, I've never seen you coach, but I imagine you're pretty hard. I mean, I would imagine like a Bud Foster type. You're a defensive guy, I imagine. You're just an animal. And they're probably like, this guy's hardcore. He's a good coach, but he can't win the big game, or he's never won a state championship. And then, boom, there's 6 in a row. So, I mean, was there ever that time?
Oh, yeah, there was plenty of times when I was kind of a guy that, I didn't really pay much attention to what was said outside. Like I said, I always kind of had blinders on most of the time. I was focused on the end result, and the end result for me was to win a state championship. And I didn't listen to what anybody else said outside of our family, our football family. And I was just focused on, getting the end. That's all I could see was the state championship. And I think I was hard.
So has that changed? I mean, because like Nick Saban, he's the master of that, focus on the process. What's important now? Bud Foster, Bill Walsh, don't focus on the scoreboard. The score takes care of itself. I mean, after all your years of coaching, is that correct? If you focus on just winning the state championship, I mean, most of the times you're probably going to be disappointed at the end of the season. So how do you feel about that now?
Well, I agree. I think that the process is part of it. When I talk about, winning the state championship, or when I was focused on winning the state championship, I knew that every day mattered to be able to get there. So the process was all part of that, if you look at it, some people, when they stand at the bottom of the mountain, all they can see is the summit. That's all they can see. And so they take off and they go. But other people, they look at all of the obstacles that are in their way that prevent them from getting to that top. I was a guy that all I could see was the top. I couldn't see any of the obstacles that were.
I've been the same way
from winning the state championship. I was focused on that's. I knew the process was what was going to get me there, but I wasn't looking at any obstacles that were going to prevent me from getting there.
Mm-hmm. So you won 6 in a row. I mean, you probably are labeled as one of the greatest coaches in Kentucky high school history, and then you get a call from your alma mater to go to Kentucky. What was that like, Coach?
It was awesome. I mean, I felt I felt so grateful for Boyle County and the coaches at Boyle. I had a great coaching staff at Boyle County who stuck with me, and I think that has a lot to do with your success as a high school coach. Is if you have turnover every year, it's just so hard, I think, to get accomplished what you want to get accomplished. I didn't have much turnover because my philosophy was I would let these guys coach. I was not just always over top of them.
Micromanager.
I wasn't a micromanager. I was not that at all. We talked about what we needed to get done, and then I let them do it. And I had a great coaching staff: Chris Purdue, Chris Mason, Jeff Hester. All those guys were with me for a long time, I really appreciated them. And I feel like that when the University of Kentucky called, I mean, I just feel so grateful that I'm the one that's being rewarded for all of our hard work, and I think the fact that I was a former player there kind of helped me get that job as well. But once Coach Rich Brooks was the head football coach at University of Kentucky, and once he called and asked me if I was interested in interviewing for the job, and I said of course I would be, and that was I had a great experience there. I had a great time. I had some great players. A lot of players that went on to the NFL, linebackers that I just loved them, and they were great guys and hard workers, and I felt pretty blessed.
When you were I'm going to go back. We're going to go back to Boyle County when you go back there for the second stint, Coach. I'll ask you more about Boyle then. But when you was in Kentucky, I mean, I just went to go watch UVA practice, and UVA has been good in the past with Coach Welsh, Al Groh, and I mean, when you were recruiting kids, I mean, what did you look for, Coach? I mean, because now it seems like it's all about their Twitter or their height or this guy's star and that. I mean, is there something else that can't be measured?
The thing that really can't be measured really is their heart, and that has a lot to do with your success. And so I think as a recruiting coach, again, you got to build that relationship with that kid, and you got to try to figure out how hungry this kid is, how hungry, how successful does he want to be. And I think you can't measure that, of course, but that's the thing that the key of getting a great recruit and getting somebody to come to your school that you think is going to help your program and help your team win. And what the great thing about Coach Brooks and I was with Coach Brooks and then later with Joker Phillips, but Coach Brooks was the first coach I was with, and had a big influence on me. And when we watched film together, he said, "I don't want to know how many stars they got." He said, "I just want to see what they can do on film, and then what you think about them as individual and as a player." And I really like that philosophy. And I know it's kind of changed. I mean, times have changed, kids have changed, all that stuff has changed. But that was us then.
Yeah. So basically, he wanted to know your opinion. He didn't want to have any outside data or to skew his decision in being the head coach and who he wanted to be on his team.
Right. And what he saw on film, he wanted to see them perform on film. Can they play at that level? And then of course he wanted us to be able to tell him, what kind of a person they were, what kind of character they had, and that was up to us to know that through building a relationship with that recruit,
And being a high school coach in Kentucky, you probably knew most of the high school coaches in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And, was that like an advantage that you had, as a college coach?
I felt like it was. I knew every coach in Kentucky. They knew me. And I felt like, one of my favorite parts of coaching college football was the recruiting part. I love the recruiting part because I could go into any high school in the United States and I could relate to that coach because I've been there. I've been in those offices. I've been there. I like to listen to them. I like to listen to some of the problems that they've having with getting the resources they need to win. And I could relate to all that. And so I could sit there and talk to them all day long and never get tired. And so I felt like it was an advantage for me. I felt like I had an advantage to be able to, recruit in, a high school and work with the coach and then of course develop a relationship with, a high school football player. Hell, I've been doing it for, all my life,
What age did you go to University of Kentucky, Coach?
I was a little late. I mean, it was a little later. It was 2005. So, I mean, I was probably in my 50s, I guess, maybe 49, 50, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So you'd coached high school football so long, and then you go to University of Kentucky and everybody in Kentucky, and, you can relate to the high school coaches because that's one of the things that some college recruiters have an advantage over other college recruiters is because the high school coach sees that college coach as one of them. And when you're a high school coach and the college guy doesn't seem like he's one of you, I mean, some guys, I guess that's what makes a good anything, a good politician, a good used car salesman. I mean, they seem like they're one of you. And it seems like you've known them for your whole life when you first meet them.
Absolutely.
I mean, can you talk a little bit about that as being a high school coach? Who are some of the best college recruiters that you've ever been around, and why were they so good?
Well, they were so good for the reason that you just spoke of. And, the guys who came in and you felt like were sincere and you felt like we're telling you the truth. And that's all I wanted as a high school coach. I mean, I didn't expect you to come into my school and, tell me how great my player is. I want you to tell me the truth. I want you to tell me, where is he going to fit in your program? Just how serious are you interested? How serious are you all in him? What's really the interest level? Like now they're doing a lot of offers. They start offering them, as ninth graders, but they're non-committable offers. You can't, you get an offer, but you can't commit. So that's been a big change. But I just want to know, they've offered, 25 people for this position. You're just one of the 20 or 15 or whatever it is, that, just where is he ranked? Tell me the truth. I mean, does he likes you? Do you like him the same way? And I'd always tell our kids too, as, if they come to me and they say, hey, I really like this school, I want to commit. I said, well, let's just find out, how interested they are, let's call, so we'll call them. And I would call them. I'd usually do it when the kid wasn't around. And I would say, all right, look, he's thinking about committing. I mean, are you going to accept it? Do you want it? How bad do y'all really want this guy? And but the guys who would come in and tell me if they would come in and say, hey, coach, this guy's you got a great player here. He's a great player, but we're not looking for that position this year. I love the guy. I don't want to be toyed.
Yeah, him and hauled in a gray area. Like Troy, like the kid's 6'2", 220. Our defensive coordinator, he wants bigger guys.
Yeah.
I mean, just because if you're a linebacker coach, you got to answer to the DC and the head coach. So, I mean, really, as a recruiter, I mean, you really don't have the ultimate say. I mean, so just straight up tell it, like, don't leave the kid hanging. Don't let the coach hang in to say, Troy, he's 6'2", 220. They want bigger guys. And now with the portal, I mean, look, Troy, like, we got 25 guys we're signing, and we're probably only going to sign 15 high school guys or 10. We're only signing 10 high school guys. I mean, that right there, it puts it in perspective.
Yeah. And then you could channel, as a high school coach, you could channel your energy to somebody who's really wanting a receiver. Say this school doesn't really take in receivers this year. This goal over here I can put all my attention there. That's all I wanted, was to be told the truth and tell me exactly what you think about it. I wasn't going to be mad at you. I wasn't going to take it personal. I understood the business. Either you
understood the business. You understood the business from both sides.
Right.
As a high school coach and as a college coach. And somebody told me in one of these 119 episodes I've done in 2 months, it was about a coach getting jobs. All these coaches want to know how they move up. And somebody said it the best. They said, well, this guy didn't text me back. Oh, it was an agent. It was Howard Shotsky, who's a college football agent. He said, well, when they don't text you back, that is your answer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like that girl that you like. Well, I've texted her 5 times. Well, there's your answer. She is not interested. Okay. Yeah. So it isn't who you love. It's who loves you. Yeah. I love Beyonce, but Beyonce don't love me.
That's right.
Hey, Coach, when you're coaching at Kentucky, I mean, my coach that I played for, he played at WVU for Mike Jacobs. And Mike Jacobs went on to coach offensive line Ohio State, Orlando Pace. He told me something. He said, at a school like Kentucky or UVA, the kids that actually probably are going to go there, they think they're probably going to Alabama. So, like, how do you find a guy that's good enough to play at your place? But you may have some guys who aren't good enough that really want to come. Like, how do you weigh that all in?
Well, I think that you recruit them all. You recruit them all like you're going to get them. And I think as you start building that relationship, then you realize who has an equal interest in you. If it's one of these guys that like the bigger schools, the top 5 or 6 programs have offered and recruited. Then as you get to talking and building that relationship, then I think it kind of sorts itself out, and these kids are they give you some love back, or they don't give you some love back. And I've had kids, I've had great kids before that recruited at, I've just called and said, hey, coach, really like you, really appreciate you, but I'm not going to come to the University of Kentucky. I'm going to come. And he'll name off 2 or 3 schools that were, that he felt like that he had already been offered and was going to accept. And I always kind of appreciated that. And I always would say, hey, if it doesn't work out, holler back at me,
Communication. I mean, because with this transfer portal, man, I would talk to everybody. I mean, because you never know. I mean, the guy that goes to Penn State, he might be going to your school next. I mean,
transfer portal is a different animal. It really is. I didn't experience that. It was a different animal, or it is a different animal. It's really, I would hate to be a high school quarterback right now, because you're just, I don't know how you're going to get recruited, because they're taking them, they're taking them out of the portal. That's how they're getting their quarterbacks,
Yes, sir.
It seems to me like they are.
Yeah. I mean, when I was at Virginia Union, we took all kinds of D1 fall offs, dropouts, whoever. I mean, it was like almost like It was worse. I mean, I'm not saying worse, but our guys would beat up the guys on Last Chance U, and they would take their lunch money. But when you take a kid from another school, there's a reason. Either what are the three reasons? Is like there's a grade problem, they're not good enough, or there's a discipline problem. There is some reason why that kid's transferring. Because if everything was good, they wouldn't be transferring. So I guess that's where you go to your relationship with the high school coach.
Yeah.
Because then you boom.
Right.
And football is the only sport that the college coaches still come to the high schools that I know of. I mean, I know there'll be probably some basketball guys that will come through, but it's not like football.
No.
And did you know that there's high schools today that do not allow college football coaches to come into their building?
Well, the administrators ought to be fired then. They're
unbelievable, man. Oh, you can't. We're in class. You can't. Dude, these guys got a busy schedule, man. They can't. Yeah. Can you believe that the administrators need to get fired? Talk about that. Taking a head coaching job and administrative support. How do you know that you're going to have support? Is there a way to know before you get the job? And is that, I mean, some coaches think, oh, I'm just the greatest. I can go in and I don't need administrative support. Talk about that, coach. How important is that when taking a high school job? I mean, I guess even college, but on the high school level.
Yeah, you've got to have, you can't do it without administrative support. I had great administrative support when I went to Boyle. At Tommy Mills, Emma Joe Carlton was the superintendent. Then later, Tommy Mills became the superintendent. Tom Brown was one of my principals. I had some great principals. Elgin Emmons. I just had some great principals that understood that football and sports in general, was really as valuable to the culture of the school as the academic part. They work hand in hand together. There's lots of things that in academics that the sports teach that you can't teach in academics, with the character and all of the that sort of thing. And so if the administrator gets it, then they're going to say, hey, here's a college coach come to see the head coach. He wants to see one of our kids. That kid he wants to see could possibly get a full scholarship, worth $300,000, depending on where it is. I would be doing that kid, that parent, that family an injustice if I didn't let that college coach come in and talk to this player and this coach. I mean,
did you know this even happens?
No, not the schools I've been at, because of it.
It wouldn't happen very long, would it?
One day there.
Man, coach. I mean, I hate the college coaches come to me and say, Troy, I can't even get into the school. Not my school, but other schools in my county. Yeah. I'm like, why would you even want to play there or coach there if they won't even let the college coaches come and talk to the kids? Like, that's some kids' motivation. That's their way out.
Yeah,
is through playing football. That's a way to motivate them. So you coach college, then you go back to high school. And what was that like? Because some people, everybody wants to be the head coach until they're the head coach. And you're a legendary coach. You've already won 5 state championships. You've been at University of Kentucky. Was that a relief? I mean, but you've already been an assistant at college. So I guess that was even almost a relief, of being the assistant coach and then going back to high school and being an assistant. Talk about that, coach.
Yeah, it was, first of all, I've never had an ego. I don't have an ego. So I think that's been, a blessing for me, because I don't really care. I don't look at it like when I was the head coach, I really didn't look at my assistants working for me. I don't never ever saying they ever worked, that we worked together.
Yeah. Y'all are a team.
We're a team. We worked together to achieve the same thing. Somebody has to be the head coach. So it happens to be me. So, but we're working together to achieve this. And I wouldn't have gotten all of the success that have achieved without those guys. And I want to know that. And I know that. And, but I don't, I never, that kind of stuff never bothered me. But when I went from, back to high school after college, it was kind of financial too. I needed 5 years to be able to draw full retirement in the state of Kentucky. because when I left at 22 years of high school coaching, and I needed 5 more years to get to the 27 mark, which gives you full retirement. So that's one of the big reasons I went after college. I went back to high school to finish that out, and so I went back to Boyle. Actually took another job for about 2 weeks, and then Boyle opened up, and they offered me a pretty good package. So I chose.
Yeah, I think so, Coach. I think they'd be pretty stupid not to offer you. The guy that won 5 state championships, left University of Kentucky. Now we got a chance to get him back. Yeah. So after you took it the second time, what was different? Was it the same program that you had left?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
That would have been weird. Yeah, that would have been weird.
It had changed. And again, it's not a knock on anybody else. They won a couple state championships while I was gone, and so the program was just with administrative support, everything was in place to have success. But when I came back the second time, it just wasn't my vision yet. I mean, it wasn't the way I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be more like it was when I left, and it wasn't. So I put a lot of focus on the lower levels again, because I think you build it from the ground up, and we did a few things.
When you say lower levels, are you going down all the way to the rec ball?
Yes, because we have at Boyle, we get them.
Is it one school, one county?
Yeah, no. It's 2 schools. It's a good question. There's a city school who had a whole lot of success at one time, and then there's the county school, and we were the county school. But
okay, so you basically draw from everybody that's in the county, kind of like in Virginia. You got Salem is a city, but it's inside of Roanoke County. I believe that's right, but I could be wrong.
Yes. And so we outside of the city limits, that those kids were eligible to come to Boyle County, and so we had our own rec league. We had a great setup, and we set it up, and it was run smooth, and then they went from there to the middle school. And so I put a lot of my attention, because I didn't feel like we were getting. I think it had maybe been neglected a little bit. So I put a lot of attention on that, and it took me a few years to get that going the way I wanted it to go. And then at the high school, the kids had a little bit different mentality. They didn't remember any of the past, any of the tradition.
Man.
And so we had to get that straightened back out, and it took a few years to get that out. And then my last 3 years there, we won. We only lost like 2 games. We won, but we won 1 state championship. We was runner up once, and then we got really upset in the semifinals the third year. The third year we got upset, and then we won it, and then we were the runner up. So once we got it straightened back out, we started going. I got the culture the way I kind of wanted it, and it had been, and then we started on a roll. And then I retired. And those Justin Haddix, who was on your show, they have done a wonderful job of just keeping the momentum going. And they're
Coach,
great job. And they've won 3 straight. They're going to be hard to handle
They're going to be hard to handle. I love that. They're going to be hard to handle. You're going to have to bring your A game to beat those guys. Yes. You're going to have to play a good football game. You don't have to get into specifics, but I would like you to. What about the tradition of Boyle County did you want those guys to remember?
Yeah, I just want them to remember, how the program was built, where it came from. And, the second time around, they just didn't know or remember. They might not even been born. I don't remember.
So how do you do that? Do you bring back old players? What was
we did a lot of that, but I mean,
it's you, Coach. I mean, it's you and your culture is
exactly
how it was built.
And I'm always big on, you gotta put it in front of them. You got to put the tradition in the past in front of them. In other words, what I mean is, like I always put up on the walls the players who had played college football. You know, they were all put on the wall.
Coach Mills does the same thing.
Who?
Coach Billy Mills does the same thing, Coach. You should go visit with him.
I know it. I love it. Especially with David there. But I wanted to I put plaques, all the players that have won, you know, the all area team, the all state team, you know, the Mr. Footballs, you know, the Mr. Football finalists, you know. I wanted to end
That's motivation. That's motivation
all the time, because I never would put a Hall of Fame wall up outside by the stadium. I just put the names of the guys who make the football, you know, Boyle County Football Hall of Fame. I just wanted to always be in their sight, so they never forget the tradition and who had.
This is the expectation. You want to be up on that wall one day.
Yes.
I mean, this is the expectation. You're going to win championships. You're going to be going to play college football. That's your motivation. If they did it, you can do it.
Never let them forget the tradition. And if they ever forget the tradition, then you'll lose it, you know.
Yeah. And, you know, at LC Bird, you know, Coach McNally keeps saying, Troy, we got to get you a better job. I mean, there ain't no better job. Highland Springs is right near the airport, Coach. They've won 5 state championships in the last 7 years. LC Bird's got 3. We're close to 80% winning percentage since 1978. Tom Bratton, who was the O-line coach at Maryland and Northwestern, he was the first head coach. We had a legendary coach in 1983 come. Coach Dutch Schrotenboer from Alpena, Michigan. He brought the Michigan Wings, and they were I formation and a 4-3, 4-4 defense, just like Bo Schembechler. And did you have something that you hung your hat on offensively and defensively? And it's so easy when kids know it and they believe in it. And like Coach Mills at Dinwiddie, I mean, they run that Tony Franklin system and they do it, and they've been doing it for a long time. What did you hang your hat on offensively and defensively? Well,
we ran the same stuff. I mean, we just, you know, defensively, we were, you know, we were, you know, a base 4-man front, but we had the capabilities of going to a 3-man front. And and then on offense, you know, we were, you know, about 50-50 run pass. You know, we could spread it out.
You were able to do both.
We could do both. And I think what the most important thing is if you have a system you believe in, then and every system has won a state championship, you know, whether it's the wing tee or the whatever it might be, the spread. All of them have won. You as a coach have got to have a system that you believe in offensively and defensively, and then you just got to coach it with passion and get the players fitted in the right positions. And I think that's how you do it. I don't really think it's the system. I'm always saying it's not really what you do, it's how you do it. And,
and I used to say, like, the team that does what they do better than the other team does what they do wins. But really, I think as I've gotten older, the team that makes less mistakes wins.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, is that an oversimplification?
No, it's the truth. I mean, it's just in the big, you know, every big game that I've lost, I've had like 5 or 6 turnovers, and it was really uncharacteristic of us. But it just, you know, whenever you make mistakes on the ball over, it's just going to happen.
And like, let me ask you this: for being a high school coach for so long, and then coaching college and watching pro football and everything, I mean, I got this all 22 NFL film. Like, I mean, I don't even know why they sell it. It's $24. You can watch every game from last year, coach's film. And I just been watching the Ravens offense. And like, I get so mad at our players because we got a bad snap, or the guy snaps the ball when the dude's in motion and he hits him in the shotgun. And the same, I mean, like UVA, watching their offensive linemen, their feet are coming too close together when they're driving a guy. I mean, it's the same stuff that I'm getting mad about in high school football. It's the same stuff they're screwing up in pro football. So, like, do you feel the same way, Coach?
Yeah, it just, I mean, they're young people and they're going to make mistakes. And I think you can prevent a lot of those mistakes by, you know, emphasizing it in practice and coaching it in practice, and not trying to do too much, but make it simple, and then having tags off the simplicity of it, and to change and have answers. But, you know, if you make mistakes, you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah. So what is so special about Boyle County other than, that tradition and that culture that you built? Is it a blue collar community? I mean, what is it about that place that makes them so good in football?
Well, it is a blue collar place, and it's a community. The Boyle County community absolutely loves the football. They love football there. They love all sports, but football, they really get together and they come to the games, and it's a great Friday night atmosphere. It's, and as a high school coach, there's nothing like Friday nights when the fans come together, the community comes together, the cheerleaders, the band, everybody's on the same page, and it's a great atmosphere, and that's what we have gotten at Boyle. And quite honestly, it wasn't like that when I first went there, but when you start having success, people jump on board, and it's developed into quite a football town. Now, it's also been nicknamed Title Town because, as I said earlier, the city school was very, very good in football.
What is the name of that team? Is that y'all's rival?
No, they were. Yeah, Danville. Now they've kind of
Kentucky.
Danville, Kentucky. They've fallen on some hard times as of lately. But if people would remember back into the 80s, the mid 80s, early 90s, or 90s, all the way up to the early 2000s, they were winning state championship after state championship. They were loaded. They were very, very good. Had a great coach there named Sam Hart, who's now retired, but he just did a outstanding job there. And Danville was just they were a great program. And as I said earlier, I think their last one was maybe in 2018, somewhere around in there. 19. They won a state championship, and then they've kind of just nosedived since then. They haven't been competitive.
Do you know any high school coaches in Virginia other than Coach Billy Mills?
Billy Mills
Coach David Davis?
That's the only ones I know, Billy.
Oh, wow, man. Because, Kentucky, like my dad's from Appalachia. He's from Wise County. There's a mountain, and on the other side is Kentucky.
Yeah.
In Kentucky, from what I hear, it's like 3 different places. It's like Tony Franklin told me it's horse country, and then it's mountains, and then I guess it's city. What's the third part? I didn't pay attention to geometry class, Coach. That's what I said. Everybody laughed.
Basically, geometry. You got Eastern Kentucky, which is the mountains, and then you got the Central Kentucky would be the horse country, and then you got Western Kentucky, and it's of course it's a long state and or a wide state, and it is divided a little bit. Yeah.
Yes. So back during COVID, I know that we tried to start. I don't want to make Mike Smith mad. There's a coach named Mike Smith, Coach Mike Smith. He's the head coach at Hampton High, the Hampton Crabbers. He's won, I think, 12 state championships. He was the head coach forever, for 50 years. He just retired. He is the GOAT of high school football in Virginia. So Coach Smith, he had his association, and there was a new one that was started. And somehow we got hooked up with the Kentucky High School Coaches Association, which is very, very strong.
Yeah.
Are you a part of that, Coach? And how did they get that thing going? Because that thing was like, y'all were going to the legislature. Like y'all were in with the politicians, the decision makers.
That is an absolutely great question, because the guy that really spearheaded all that was David Buchanan. And David Buchanan he was the head coach at that time of Mercer County High School. And he became the president of the Kentucky Football Coaches Association. And he was just bound and determined for Kentucky to play football during the COVID 2020 year.
That guy's an animal.
And David, and since then, I'm going to plug this in, since then David has retired, and David and I do a podcast. He and I are really good friends, and we do a podcast. It's called The Coach's Office, Behind the Scenes with Chuck Smith and David Buchanan. And, you can get the podcast on any of the places you get podcasts, but David is the one who really spearheaded all that. He was so determined As he went to the legislature, he got the coaches together. He started an elected council, a part of the Kentucky Football Coaches Association, where the coaches elected representatives. So we'd have a stronger voice with the Kentucky High School Athletic Association. And once he got that in place, then we did data, we did research with the coaches, and then he took it to the commissioner of Kentucky High School football and presented it to the Board of Control and the Kentucky commissioner. And we played football in 2020 and
in the fall.
And you got to credit, and most people in Kentucky, if they know anything about what went on, you got to credit David Buchanan for that, because David is the one who was not going to take no for an answer, and he got everything into place. He did it professionally. He got it organized with the Kentucky elected council, and it was awesome.
And that COVID season, we played in the spring, Coach, and we weren't allowed to work out. Like, we weren't allowed to be around our players, and we actually had a good group of talent, seniors. And Coach, the games were too close. And I don't know, you don't know me, Coach, but I'm the most penalized coach at any level, from rec to pro.
Yeah,
I have the latest late hit of all time as a player. Like, Coach, they start throwing flags as soon as I walk on the field. I mean, Coach, we can't even run the ball to the other team's sidelines because they call holding every single time. Yeah. Have you ever coached against a team like that? I mean,
but I've felt like that before. When it's not going my way, it seems like I get a whole lot of penalty, or I don't, but the team gets a whole lot of penalties. And
I expect it, Coach. When they don't throw a flag, I'm surprised. Yeah. I'm expecting it every play. Everybody knows that. Everybody that knows me knows it, and I'm not afraid to admit it.
Well, you all didn't play in the fall. You all played.
No, we played in the spring, and we went 1-5, Coach. And if it was close, we lost.
Y'all needed David Buchanan.
Coach, if I could have done it, I would have. But I've been coaching 20 years, and people were – Coach, this is how – I have no clue what I'm doing. Like, I found out, someone told me, well, Troy, it's kind of late to be doing a podcast and doing Zooms. I was like, what? They're like, everybody was doing that during COVID. I was like, I didn't watch any of them. I didn't know that they were going on. I kind of took a break from football. It was kind of like my halftime, because I've been going hard for 20 years. Yeah. And I mean, Coach, one of the best days of my life was when Coach McNally told me that I was above average. I mean, I was like, this is the GOAT of offensive line coach is telling me, and he's telling me about his high school coach had the radar defense. I was like, oh, that's when they're all walking around and everything standing up. He goes, yeah. And he's like, he learned the run and shooter. I was like, from Tiger Ellison. He's like, how do you know all this? So, like, Coach, I've been lucky, man. I've been so blessed to be surrounded around people who, I mean, it's that saying, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Or like, do you even know who Mr. Beast is, Coach? Have you ever heard of Mr. Beast? Well, this guy has got a YouTube channel, and he's got the most YouTube subscribers of all time. The guy's like 26. He's a billionaire. But he said the cheat code to life is to surround yourself with people that you want to be like. And I was like, I tell my players that, like, he wants to be in shape. So he surrounds himself with bodybuilders because they eat right, they work out. I mean, is that true, Coach? Is the cheat code to life to surround yourself with people you want to be like?
I think you surround yourself with people that have the same kind of philosophy that you have, and believe in the same things that you believe in. And I think there's some validity to what he's talking about. Surround yourself with people that you want to be like. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah, and he also, this guy talks about, he says, I teach other people to be like me. But really what he's doing is he's just teaching other people how he thinks. He's teaching them their culture. He can't, I mean, because, like, are you really teaching people to be, Chuck Smith? Or are you just teaching people y'all's culture? You know what I mean, Coach?
I think you teach the culture. I don't think you teach them to be like you. But now the culture is going to be like you. So indirectly, I guess you are doing that.
Yeah. So I guess it's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
Than just you're teaching someone to be like you, that you're teaching your culture, which you are the head coach. So, I mean, I guess it is your culture. So,
Right.
Coach, we've been on here over an hour. I'm gonna ask you one more question. Mark
Well,
Stoops.
I was wanting to say too that once I
Yeah,
retired, then I went to help my son. I've been coaching the last 3
I
years,
heard about him.
and he's the head coach, became the head coach of South Warren High School in Bowling Green, and
Mm-hmm.
he's won 3 state championships there, which that was a brand new school, and he's had a lot of success there. So,
Jackson, come here.
and I got to win one with him as an assistant, volunteer assistant for him. So
And how did that feel?
That was awesome. One of the
I mean,
more awesome times experiences that I've had is to be able to win, a state championship on his staff.
I mean,
Everything's brand
how old is your son? How old is your son now?
36.
I mean, he's still young. I mean, I think sons of coaches, they have an advantage.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was 11 years old, my dad worked at Reynolds Metals. He was a Marine. He's a Mason. He's a former DI drill instructor in the Marine Corps. So, I mean, he ran a big organization, but I wasn't learning about football. And like Coach Belichick, I mean, Coach Saban's dad was a youth coach. Josh McDaniels, coaches' sons. I mean, look at Joey Burrow. I mean, his dad was defensive coordinator at Ohio and, a coach in Nebraska. They have an advantage.
Yeah. They're around it all the time. Brandon was around me. He came to practice. He hung around. He was always around it. I agree with that 100%.
I mean, I guess it's just like they have more hours in. Yeah. And it's just like, so I want to get your son on, Coach. I don't know what you need to tell him to get him on. Just say, hey, it's funny you ask me, are you like Coach McNally, you a podcast guy? No, I'm really not. Because when I started this, one of my younger coaches now is head coach at another school. He said, Troy, you're going to talk too much. Because in the media, I won't say anything. I'll just say, I'll answer the question, stop. Everybody's a great team. Everybody's well coached. We're going to have to play well to beat them. But here, people really get to see my personality, Coach. So, I mean, I'm learning. I mean, when I did my own clinic, I had the biggest clinic in Virginia. I never got to hear anybody, but I've got to talk to 119 guys. Yeah. So, like, I'm more motivated than ever. I want to ask you about Mark Stoops in Kentucky and turning around that program, Coach. Being an alumni, how did he do it? What is he doing? I mean, he spoke at y'all's Commonwealth clinic. I mean, what is it about Mark Stoops? He's from a great family, son of a coach.
He really is, and I love his style. I've met him a couple of times. I think he's a great guy. He's really sincere. He's got some old school in him, but he's also got some. He can relate, to the. I think he's kind of a hard-nosed guy, but he's also relates to the younger generation. They've done an outstanding job of recruiting. They'll recruit the best players. They go in and they go after the top players in the country. And if they get them and they've gotten their share of them, it's great. If they don't, it's, they don't take it personal. They just keep moving forward. I think he had a vision for Kentucky football. And I think that he sowed that vision to everybody involved with the program. I just think he's done an outstanding job. He's been a great addition to Kentucky football.
And I hope he stays.
I do too.
Because, like, I'm a Virginia guy, Coach. So, I mean, you're a Kentucky guy. And I really don't like it when these guys use Virginia and Virginia Tech to be stepping stones. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm just, biased. Yeah. But, I mean, you don't want anybody to use your school as a stepping stone. But I guess if he gets $20 million more to go somewhere else, I understand. But
well, Mitch Barnhart is our AD, and he at the University of Kentucky. He was the AD when I was there, but he does a great job of when he finds a coach that he thinks is great for the University of Kentucky. He does a great job of keeping them financially, and he's put a lot of money in it, and he's paid them all very well. And I think he has to have a little credit for that too.
Yeah, Coach. So is there anything else that we haven't covered? I mean, I tried to go thoroughly through your whole career, Coach. Is there anything we haven't covered? I mean, coaches' wives. You have any advice on coaches' wives?
Well, I happen to have the best one. We've been married for 40, I guess maybe 42 years.
Wow.
And she, I mean, they're rare now. They're rare. You got to find
there aren't many of them anymore.
You got to find a special one to sacrifice and give up, her husband for other people's kids, for a season, and months out of the year. And she's been wonderful. I certainly wouldn't have the success that I've had without her, for sure.
Yeah, Coach. So thank you for coming on, Coach. When I press end, I'd like for you to stay on so we can chat a little bit off the air.
Okay.
But I appreciate you coming on, Coach, and I'd like to have you back on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to have you on whenever you want. And Coach, tell everybody a little bit about your podcast before we sign off.
Yeah, our podcast is, again, it's the coach's office behind the scenes with Chuck Smith and David Buchanan. It's a football podcast, and we talk a lot of football. We talk philosophies and techniques and strategies, and we'll always have a guest coach on. We have a high school guest coach on. We've had some college coaches, we talk about in-season stuff, off-season stuff. It's been really we've gotten good response from it. There's been a lot of listeners and that have gives us a lot of feedback. We probably get 1,500 listeners per episode.
Wow.
So we're doing it's been pretty successful, but I think it's a good product. We're giving a lot of good information. Again, I'm an old not retired. I mean, I still help my son, but technically retired, but I'm helping my son coach football. Like I said, Brandon Smith's the head coach of South Warren High School. I've been helping him for the past 3 years. David Buchanan is retired. Now he's wanting to coach some more. He's only 58, but he's retired and he's looking for another job. But my point is we got a lot of knowledge and we've got a lot of experiences and we share those on our podcast.
Yeah, Coach. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, and just hang on when I press end here. But thank you, everybody for viewing the clinic today. We appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you, Coach.